So welcome again to lesson 9 of material success through yoga principles. This is the importance of human values. This is a beautiful lesson, and I thought we would start with a simple, very simple chant. I am the bubble. So do thou, so do thou, my Lord, thou and I, never apart, thou and I, never wave of the seas of the sea, wave of the sea dissolve in the sea. Oh, I am the Baba, make me the sea. I am the Baba, make me the sea. Make me the sea, oh, make me the sea. Make me the sea, oh, make me the sea. Wave of the sea, dissolve in the sea. Wave of the sea, dissolve in the sea. Oh, I am the Baba, make me the sea. I am the Baba, make me the sea. Oh, I am the Baba, make me see. And let's offer a prayer together. Divine Mother, Heavenly Father, friend, beloved God, great masters of self-realization, Jesus Christ, Babaji Krishna, Lahiri Mahashai, Swami Yukteswar, Paramhansa Yogananda, and saints of all religions, we humbly bow before you and invoke your presence. Bless and guide our satsang. Help us to realize the balance of spiritual and material efficiency, that we may be successful and fulfill your divine will and share your boundless blessings with all. Om. Peace. Amen. Well, let's meditate briefly together. Let's start with a double inhale, tensing the body. Throw the breath out, relax. One more time. Tense with will, relax, and feel. And try to hold your body perfectly straight, still, with uplifted gaze at the point between the eyebrows. And let's meditate briefly in stillness and silence there. Let's continue to meditate with eyes closed and practice this affirmation from the lesson. So you can say this out loud. I am an actor in the drama of infinity. I will do my best to fulfill the cosmic plan for my life. Again, a little softer, but out loud. I am an actor in the drama of infinity. I will do my best to fulfill the cosmic plan for my life. Now in a whisper, I am an actor in the drama of infinity. I will do my best to fulfill the cosmic plan for my life. Now mentally only, I am an actor in the drama of infinity. I will do my best to fulfill the cosmic plan for my life. Now silently and superconsciously broadcasting it from the spiritual eye, the point between the eyebrows. So with me silently, I am an actor in the drama of infinity. I will do my best to fulfill the cosmic plan for my life. I am an actor in the drama of infinity. I will do my best to fulfill the cosmic plan for my life. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. So welcome again, Stephanie Gurupad. And please feel free. It's our informal book study here, so you can unmute yourself or type into the chat box anytime, any comments, questions. As I mentioned, this is our discussion tonight is on lesson 9, the importance of human values. And this is a very interesting chapter because Swami Kriyananda again picks it up by a very transcendental and universal thread of the yamas and niyamas and incorporating the value of being human and bringing that into our business, our daily life, and whatever it is we may be doing. So I have some notes of some things that stood out to me that I'd like to share, but please chime in at any point. So if you have the book, this is on page 135, and if you don't have the book, that's quite all right. I'll read it to us. This is at the bottom of 135. I think it shows a healthy society to be so variegated. A person might respond to the above example, but inefficiency won't bring material success. Granted, certainly. That isn't my point, however. I'm saying that you will have greater success if you accept that you are a human being first, and that your clients or customers or whomever you look to for your success are human beings also, and not money spewing machines. So I love this first little excerpt from Swamiji. That we're human beings first, and what does that mean? There's a debate maybe you've heard about with the um, catalyst of AI, of artificial intelligence. Is AI conscious or not? And it's an interesting question. I mean, it doesn't really seem to be much of a debate in my mind, because there's a misunderstanding, I think, between the intellect and consciousness, right? A machine might be able to demonstrate that it can go through some type of computation or rationalization because of data that it receives. But that's something altogether different from being conscious or being human here, as Swami's saying. That's one of the defining characteristics of being human, is that we have a level of consciousness that we can aspire to attune ourselves to the divine. And so there's another example here that Swami gives of, the two bakers, and the one baker doesn't thinks about just they're both equal in their skill of baking, but the one baker thinks only of himself and making money from his customers, while the other actually has genuine care and concern for his customers. I grew up in an Italian family, and I had a very good friend growing up that was also Italian. He was from a big family. He had he was like the 10 of 11 kids, 7 sisters, 4 boys, and grandkids. He has a huge family. And his father started a produce business. He worked in agriculture, so he would get corn and tomatoes, and he started this little produce stand right out of his driveway selling corn and tomatoes and whatnot. And it started from this little, small, out of the back of his car kind of business to now it's this very successful family business. And I worked there when I was in high school with my friend, and I reflect back and remind this lesson reminded me of that because one of the reasons they have been successful is it's a very people first business. Somebody comes up, it's a unique experience where someone walks up to the produce stand and they'll say, I'd like 5 ears, or half a dozen ears of corn, a, a pound of ripe tomatoes and a ripe melon. And so you would wait on the customer, right? So we would do this. You would pick out the corn for them, you would pick out the tomatoes, you would pick a ripe melon, and you would walk the produce to their car. And I really enjoyed it. It was a really fun job because it was very people oriented. And I think one of the reasons that people like going to this produce stand, Marini's, that's what it was called, Marini's Produce. One of the reasons people liked it is because they enjoyed being treated like a human being. And I don't know, I mean, I have thought, again, a lot about AI um, because it's in the news so often, but I think it's very interesting because if you think, well, if these supercomputers, if they can do everything better than a human being, like then it can have this feeling of, well, what do I have to bring? But I think the irony is going to be it'll be part of the return to simplicity that Swami Kriyananda talked about in one of his other books, Hope for a Better World, that we will humans will crave uh, authentic connection with other human beings because the AI is going to be so out there, and people won't know what if this person is real or not online. So being able to connect in person, well, here we're connecting through Zoom, that's the next best thing. But to connect with other people, I think is going to become very, very important and part of this return to simplicity in small communities. So that was one aspect. On 136, this was another part here. This is top of 136. You will never succeed, at least in terms of your own need for happiness, so long as you ignore the human factor. You know, I mean, I think this comes naturally for a lot of people, but in the world of business, it's not a natural thing to put human values and the human element first in business. And actually, when Swami gets into the yamas and niyamas here, he talks about power. Um, I forget which one he was talking about. Anyway, he talks about power in the worldly sense is, of course, about getting money and rich and having influence and this sort of thing. But real power, spirit, part of our spiritual power, he talks about, is learning the art of winning people. There was that old book, maybe you read, Dale Carnegie's How to Win Friends and Influence People. It's a great book. I recommend that book. He talks about there a lot about just human values and how to put people first, to think of others, and to think of, just asking someone about their story and how you got to the place you are today and this sort of thing. If it's done genuinely, that has the power to make people feel their authentic value and their story. And just like the affirmation that we started, right? I will play my part in the drama of infinity. I will do my best to achieve the cosmic plan for my life or whatever. I'm paraphrasing it, but that's the idea, right? Is that eh, we know every snowflake is unique, right? Every soul has their own soul song to sing. That's so beautiful, right? Guru Pad, Stephanie, every one of us has a unique story, a unique song in the blend of God's harmony. And if we can, one of our friends over the weekend was sharing this, that her father was a psychologist and he taught a course in how to listen. And she was saying her father was really good at this, at giving the space for people to listen to people. And you might remember how Sri Yukteswar said that in the autobiography. He said, try to hear behind the words of what people are saying, what they truly mean. What are they trying to convey? Because words are just shells for consciousness. That's why Swami Kriyananda we love Swami. He was such a crystal clear writer, right? And people would say to him, God, you write so easily. He said, no, it doesn't, it takes work, right? He would work at it. He would go over a page 50 times and edit sometimes so that he would get the clarity and the rhythm and the meaning the way that he wanted it, so that it would be like a conversation, right? Like talking to Guru Pad, talking to Stephanie, having a conversation that made you feel heard in a sense, right? Even though when I read Swami, I'm not talking back, but I feel like I'm having a conversation with him. So this is an important aspect of having human values first.
Narayan, you were saying
Yes, please, Stephanie.
you weren't sure which one it was. It's actually the ahimsa. That's what I love
Ah,
about the
thank you.
explanations, the expanded understanding of these
Yeah,
10 principles. Um, and and that Swami says it's your own happiness. If you know, it works toward your own happiness to develop these.
yeah. Thank you for sharing that, Stephanie. It's it's in our own best interest to develop them. And I love that thought of, it's we hear these grand truths, right? We're one, we're all one being. There's one life. Swami has that beautiful song, Brothers, one life beneath the surface binds everyone to me. Who knows himself knows all men as brothers. But that's where the yamas and niyamas are so beautiful and powerful, like you're sharing, Stephanie, with ahimsa, is they give us a way to realize that truth and to put them into practice. And that's why this course is so beautiful. It's a very high-minded and noble, and really with the highest aspirations, but at the same time gives us very grounded applications to realize the truths.
You know,
Yeah, please.
I'm really interested in how people experience this within their own business or their own organizations they belong to. I'm retired, but when I was working in library organizations, boy, the bigger the organization, the further away from the human answers, the one-on-one answers. For me, where I find it in my life is when I go to our food co-op where I live and watch all the young people. They each have their own consciousness and their own place where they are.
Yeah.
And you just brought up a quote from one of Swami's songs, and I thought maybe that's the answer. There are several young people that I can't get through to make that human connection when we're checking out. And there could be a zillion reasons, but they more are like AI than they are vulnerable.
Yeah, we have to make the effort, just make the effort to connect with people. It's one of the downsides of technology, right? That people are just relating to the technology and and kids, if they're using it at an earlier age, right, their brains aren't developed and they have all sorts of social anxiety and disconnection and all these sorts of things. I mean, I'm sure a lot of it's related to this overuse of technology when you're not, and it stunts one's maturity because and and of course that's what a corporate a corporation that wants to make money wants you to do. It wants you to become, right. It wants you to use, yeah, well, it wants you to become addicted to it. It wants you to use it. And so I think we need to make that, that you're making the effort just to try to make eye contact with somebody. I mean, that's a simple way that we can look at someone's spiritual eye. Just Swami would make a comment. I remember we were in Los Angeles and there was this little place called Larchmont Village, which was like a little, shops and you could walk up and down the street. And Swami loved going there because he just liked to walk around. And this woman had some sort of scarf, I forget exactly, and he just paused and said, "My, what a beautiful blue. Thank you for wearing that." And the woman, opened up to him and he had this whole conversation with her. But he would compliment people in that way to try to connect, right, with them on a human level. And he would often say, right, to dress nicely, it's a compliment to someone else. Of course, it can be clothes and things can be out of vanity, but that's not the way Swami was encouraging us to use them to spiritualize them, right? In fact, there was that story when he was a young monk at Mount Washington and Rajarsi Janakananda, James Lin, Yogananda's most advanced disciple, was coming to Mount Washington, and Swami he said he had a T-shirt that had rips and holes in it, and Master said, "Go change your shirt." Swami didn't even think about it, and then he said, "Oh," and then so he went and put on a nicer shirt. But those kind of things where we're acting in consideration, like what you're saying, Stephanie, of other people. And yeah, it's tough when you feel like you can't connect, but keep keep on keeping on, keep trying, and then it's just like our own nature, Stephanie. Like we have parts of our nature that are more receptive to the spiritual teachings, and we have part of our nature we have a battle within that's more our worldly tendencies. Well, we feed the light. It's like one of our other Crystal Clarity authors, Usha, wrote a book called Awake and Ready. I think you guys may have seen it, maybe not. It's a great book. It's Awake and Ready, How to Use Energy and Motivate Anyone. But it's an education for life book. So in a certain sense, you think, oh, this is a book for teachers and parents. No, it's a book for anyone. And there's a chapter in there she has on progressive development. And it's really talking about the gunas, low energy, heavy energy, ego active energy, light energy. And she would say in a classroom, you work with the kids that have the light energy and that are ego active to light. And if you get them enthusiastic and motivated, they're going to draw all the other kids in the class into that energy. So it's this. What I'm saying is, it's the same for working with our own nature, but also you may find that a certain young person or that you meet or family member or whatever will be open. Swami would never give the teachings in a heavy-handed way. He would only give if there was interest there, right? If you demonstrated sincere interest in the teachings, then he would give very freely. There's a really powerful story actually of Swami Sri Yukteswar. Maybe you heard this story that Yogananda brought, maybe it was one of his college friends, I forget, to Sri Yukteswar, to his ashram in Serampore. And all Sri Yukteswar talked about with this young man was cars. And so the young man left the ashram with Yogananda, and he was really disappointed. He said, "This is your great master? All he talks about is cars." And Yogananda said, "He's not a spiritual salesman who will just, pop a profound truth down your gullet." He said, "You have to show interest in the spiritual truths." And so they went back to the ashram either that day or I think it was that same day. And this young man did ask some genuine questions of Sri Yukteswar, and then Sri Yukteswar started to share, and then he asked more, and then they stayed there the entire night. And this young man was awestruck at the spiritual grandeur of Sri Yukteswar. You see, but it would be missed, and it's missed on us. That's why Master puts in Autobiography of a Yogi, the very first sentence, the characteristic features of Indian culture have long been the search for ultimate verities, and the disciple and the concomitant disciple-guru relationship. So it's significant that he put the word disciple first, right? It's not guru-disciple relationship, it's disciple-guru. The guru is not going anywhere, right? He is pure, he is permanent, he's unmoving, like the hymn to Brahma. The important thing is how much are we drawing, right? And that's why we have satsangs like this so that we can tune in together. That's why, of course, we meditate. That's why we serve. But it all comes back to really what Swami's talking about in this lesson. It's our attitude, right? He's saying the yamas and the niyamas are really attitudes of our mind. He tells the story of Yogananda going to kill the mosquito, and Sri Yukteswar saying, "Why don't you finish the job? What, do you condone death, sir?" No, what Patanjali meant was to remove the desire to kill, right? So the important thing, and Jyotish is writing a book on this called The Heart of Service. It's not what you do, it's how you do it. It's your consciousness, right? It's give life your heart. It's immerse yourself in what you're doing. And this applies, of course, to when we meditate, to be able to concentrate one pointedly, and also to our service, which is an act of meditation, because really we're serving God inwardly when we meditate, and then we're serving Him in others when we go about whatever it is that we find ourselves doing in our daily lives.
I was actually thinking when I mentioned you're talking about a phrase from Swami's song that I might just sing something to them, but then your discussion's making me think that might be a little heavy-handed. It's like
It depends. No, I mean, allow
I rather
yourself.
like your idea of complimenting and also being patient, because I do have compassion and I do appreciate, but I need human interaction as well. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we all do. And, it's like you have to just use your own intuition. This is some people, a certain, a song may work, another person. Swami was ever, I mean, he was an incredible example that way of living super consciously, of living and relating to people in a super conscious way, right? And that meant he was ever fresh. He was ever new.
Yeah, good.
And and it was never, he didn't like have, okay, this is the way I deal with the kid who is, you
Good.
know, on Instagram at the checkout line and not paying attention. He was very much fresh and just like God is ever existing, ever conscious, ever new joy. So he brought, that was the consciousness that came through. It wasn't Swami. I don't want to particularize, and that's the point. Even like he would say, if you meet someone from Ananda, I meet Gurupad, I meet Stephanie, I meet other people, and you could say, wow, they're special people. But he said, when you meet a whole community of people, it's what they're doing that makes them special. And so, what is it that people are doing at a community like Ananda? Is they are tuning in to the higher power, right? The transcendental third, if you will. We're tuning into God and we're opening ourselves and trying to allow Him to come through in whatever it is that we do. And that makes it that's beautiful. And that's one of the inspiring things of being in community is you don't have to, you see people acting out all different areas of the community. Some people are serving through the retreat, some people are serving through fundraising, some and whatever. It's not what they're doing, it's how they're doing it. And when they bring that attitude of selflessness and divine service to it, that's what makes it beautiful. Okay, let me jump to this other one I had here on 138. This is bottom of 138 if you have the book. Don't ignore human feelings and don't make the serious mistake where your own happiness is concerned of thinking that how others feel is no concern of yours. Their feelings matter more to you than you may realize. For in treating others well, your own happiness expands, and in treating them badly, your happiness contracts and causes you to suffer. This is what you were sharing before, Stephanie, right? This is part of that. It's in your own best interest. Happiness and suffering are relative. A habitually selfish person isn't aware, except in his deeper self, that he is not really happy. He may imagine that happiness isn't even important to him, that all he wants is a good time occasionally. In this lack of awareness, he may even be cruel to others and believe he is finding pleasure in the cruelty, even though his ego, unknown to himself, is causing him to suffer. In his insensitivity, indeed unconscious of why he is suffering, he will only become more tense both physically and emotionally. He will imagine that the only way he can relieve his inner tension is to strike out at others even more viciously. He is not aware of the fact that his consciousness is contracting. Thus, his innate desire for self-expansion may express itself in time in the form of an emotional explosion. I'm sure we've all experienced this ourselves. We've either done it or been on the end of it. He may become violent or furious at the world and more determined than ever to hurt others as he considers that he himself has been hurt. Bitter at the way he thinks he has been treated, increasingly angry with the world, and as a result ever more tense inside, he blames everyone but himself. I mean, this is what's happening in the world today. And this is one of the things that Swami, I remember him saying this years ago, that he was uh, didn't want to see America go the way of blame. You know, I mean, I was in Los Angeles for Dharma Devi, and I served in LA for like 13, 15 years, whatever it was. And in LA, I think it may even be like 50%. It's probably 25 to 50% of every billboard in Los Angeles is a lawyer. I mean, it's like, you know, if you're in the accident, one actually stands out. It was you know, like the iPhone, it was accident. And like it's become just like, well, if you get in an accident, it's not your fault. It's the other guy's fault, and you sue and you get money. It's just become like part of the way that people think. And we've got to, you know, extract ourselves from that kind of blame consciousness mentality and come back to taking full responsibility, right? That's what we want on the path to self-realization. What we want is self-mastery, right? And a master takes full responsibility for his actions, for his thoughts, for his feelings, for everything. Now, the one side, you can feel like, my God, that's a really tall order. Well, yeah, of course it is. Like the Italians would say to Swami, ma che difficile, like, oh, it's so difficult, Swamiji. You know, if you're in a battle and you're fighting with a sword with another person on a battlefield, you don't say, God, that was a really strong swing of your sword. Or if you're playing a sport, you know, and someone hits we play soccer, right? Gurupad, somebody hits the ball over there. You don't cry about how well they hit it. You run and you try and, if it's tennis, you try and return that ball. If it's soccer, you try and chase it down, whatever it is. You don't think about how you feel about it. You just think, what can you do? And that's the important thing for us, is to ask the practical questions. You know, what can we do about it? Right? And the type of it's important for us to remember that the world is entering this new age of Dwapara Yuga. We're in an ascending age of energy. So there's more energy, there's more divine energy flooding the planet, and we're seeing these old materialistic paradigms and attitudes are being animated, right? With war, with everything. And the way for us to overcome that is not to get sucked into the negativity, the anger, and the fear. It's for us to become ever more open and receptive to the light, right? We want to be open to the divine influences so that we can be a source of strength and clarity and joy in this world, and remind people that there is an answer, right? There's a way out of this turmoil. And that way, it's through the eternal. It's through God. Uh, but in order to share that, we have to have some of it, right? So that's why we have to have a practice, an inner life, communing with God, feeling His presence, feeling her presence, feeling the divine, and then just, that's the most important thing that we can do, is hold on to that consciousness and bring it into daily life. So there was, oh, let me pause. Anyone want to share any thoughts, comments? I,
Guru Pad, are you at the village as well?
Yes, I am. Where are you at?
I'm in the Rocky Mountains in Laramie, Wyoming.
Oh, nice. Do you come to these book studies often?
I do.
This
Yeah.
is my first time. It's really good. Thanks,
Well, I'm
Narayan.
really glad to have you meet you.
yeah, we have to do a better job, Gurupada, getting the word out. I just have been, uh, so many other things have been on the front burner that the book study got a little bit backburnered, but we're bringing her back.
Nice. I've
And
been
this,
really enjoying listening to Swami reading and reading with him, with the
yeah,
audio.
yeah, yeah,
Very
yeah, it's
powerful.
beautiful. I did that this afternoon as I was, preparing for this lesson. To hear, we for Srinivas, we have the audiobook. We have Swami Kriyananda reading this course, and it's really powerful. I know what you mean, Guru Pad, because the voice conveys consciousness. And Swami used to say that, in lecturing, he could he would lecture very spontaneously, right, from a place of inspiration, and he could speak with feeling. And in writing, he would say he could express crystal clarity because he could go through a page 50 times and edit it and get the words just the way he wanted to convey whatever that meaning was. But in an audiobook, I think is that you get the blend of the two. You get the clarity of the written word, but you're hearing it from his voice with consciousness. And
Mm,
so it's a really nice. I'm with you. I enjoy listening and reading at the same time.
mm.
There was this one part, on page 140. I'm trying to find it. Radiating integrity. Where is that? Oh, here it is. At the top of 140, he's saying, um, talking about Patanjali says that this quality, when perfected, confers the power of materializing one's words and of reaping the fruits of action without acting. And he's talking about truthfulness. In material affairs, the benefit of truthfulness is twofold. First, it carries conviction, for truthful people radiate complete integrity. Second, any words they utter with concentrated will can be materialized simply because they spoke them. So I thought this is a beautiful explanation of truthfulness. And and the first reminds me of, first it carries conviction, for truthful people radiate complete integrity. I don't know, I was thinking of like Nayaswami Jaya, who's some people here know Jaya, and when he shares or when he speaks, he comes from a place of such depth and attunement to divine truth that you feel that integrity in his, not just in his speech, not just in what he's saying, but in his being. Uh, and then words materializing. Well, we can look at the example of Babaji, of course, in the autobiography. What he would say would come to pass. And so let's bring it back to us. Well, what can we do? Whatever we say, to follow through on our word, even in little things. Remember, that was in one of the previous lessons where Swami said if I said I was going to get the paper from that shop and he had to go back to town to do it because he said he was going to do it. And it would probably, he would say, especially in the little things, right? Because that's when it's easier to practice. So this was one example. Then on 141, the more you show, he's talking about ashteya, non-stealing. The more you show appreciation for others, the more others, not even the same people necessarily, will show appreciation for you in return. The more support you give others also, the more supported you will feel in yourself. This is genuine appreciation, genuine support. So it's not just saying, thank you, Guru Pod. It's, thank you for helping me stack those logs. Guru Pod knows what I'm talking about. We were actually stacking some logs the other day. Specifically, right? To show, appreciate, express what is it that you appreciate. Your cheerfulness, your joy, that scarf, right, that Swami commented on that woman. He was showing a specific appreciation for something. And that is very, very important. Because I think sometimes there's this spiritual pitfall where, people think that we're so spiritual that we can't relate to other people, right? That's the pitfall, is getting little self-involved. When you get rather absorbed in the self, right? And you can share that joy, like Swami said in a song, give me joy to share. And one of the ways we can do that is to show a genuine appreciation to others. On 141, he talks about brahmacharya. And this is top of 141, self-control is self-containment, not self-suppression. That's an important point. The more your powers radiate outward from your inner being, instead of fizzing restlessly through the senses, the more you will have your energy under control, and will therefore be able to direct it effectively according to actual needs of the moment. Remember that prayer demand Yogananda gave? Oh, Father, I care not what I may permanently possess, but give me the power to acquire at will what I may daily need. Right? This is like an example of brahmacharya, of flowing with Brahma, being in the spirit of God. That's why we are inspired by Paramahansa Yogananda, right? When you hear, I'm sure you've all heard his voice and those talks, and there are some talks he's so sweet, so tender, and then like he can be thundering. It's like softer than the flower where kindness is concerned, stronger than the thunder where principles are at stake. This is an example of brahmacharya, of being in tune with the divine spirit of God and being able to be appropriate for the moment, what is needed for that moment. And then you can use your energy, concentrate your energy so that you can meet whatever is needed for that God-given moment.
Could you give an example of what outer self-control versus inner self-control is?
Yeah, I mean, that's thank you, Rupad. That's a really good question. Swami talks about that, saying that outer self-control isn't really important if it's not complemented at least by the effort to make inwardly to be self-controlled, right? Because our actions, right, are spilling out from our consciousness. So that's why, like, cleanliness is the first niyama. And Swami talks about that in here. That, there's the obvious, of course, we've heard that expression, cleanliness is next to godliness, godliness is next to cleanliness, right? So keeping a clean environment, yes, outwardly is important, but really on the deeper level, it's purity of heart. Blessed are the pure in heart. That's the real, you've heard that expression, Gurupad, you've heard Christ say, it's not what goes in a man's mouth, it's what comes out of it. It's when the Pharisees were, um, they were condemning Jesus and his disciples for not eating on the Sabbath, or they hadn't cleaned their hands. I forget the exact story. It's a story from the Bible, but Christ's response was, it's not what goes in the man's mouth that makes him unclean and unholy. It's what comes out. Meaning the vibrations, right, that we emanate. So to practice self-control, we need to learn that we're practicing it on an attitude of our mind, right? That we're, again, trying to take responsibility for our thoughts, our feelings, and not to beat ourselves up either, because that's another big pitfall. We feel like, oh, we didn't live up to, well, the high ideals that we have. Everybody makes mistakes. It's what are we doing, right? How are we trying to self-correct when you have, again, I grew up Italian, and there's this saying in my family. I mean, it was just like a common thing. Oh, it's a sin. That's a sin. Like Johnny became a drug addict. It's a sin. And it was like, it's a shame. It was just like, oh, that happens. That's a shame. Well, it is a shame, and that's true. But the deeper truth is that shame and guilt, if you get sucked into them, that's just it's reinforcing your ego to just feel bad and not really muster up the will to change. So rather than focusing on, it's just, you just like dust off your hands, just like getting knocked down, and you get yourself up and you keep going. But it's really, that's why we talk a lot about this principle of attunement to the guru, right? Attunement to his consciousness, because what we want is that level of divine strength and purity of heart and wisdom that is beyond, we can't even fathom it, but we know that he's got what we want, right? I know that you feel that way. And there are certain people that when I came to, when I met Swami, of course, I just thought, wow, like Yogananda was sort of like the sun. And then when I met Swami, he was like a farmer in the field who showed me how to take that light and make a garden of self-realization. So this is the inner attunement, Gurupad, right? When we attune to a self-realized master, he has self-control, like true self-control, right? And Kriya Yoga, of course, that's practicing. You can think of your Kriya practice as, this is self-control, because I'm moving energy in the spine. I'm opening myself to the divine influence of the Guru. I'm holding my consciousness up. Change my darkness into thy light, Lord. To hold yourself there and ask him to spiritualize those qualities. That's the beautiful thing. It's that we don't have to hide anything. I mean, we can't. We can try to hide. He knows everything anyway. So that it's more. It's better for us just in love and trust to open ourselves and allow that light to come in. And that's what really changes us and helps us to practice self-control on a deeper level.
Thank you.
Wow. Oh my gosh, we're at time. So let's, in the last few minutes here, I'm going to play the meditation, Swami's meditation for this lesson. So we can, if you feel, you can close your eyes, and I'm going to share sound here for this lesson. Okay. And just give me a thumbs up that you can hear it once it starts here. It should start in a second.
Meditation. Visualize light descending into the world from infinity. Focus it on whatever you are doing. Don't mentally divorce what you are doing in the effort to succeed from the totality of what you hope to accomplish. Remember, too, what you really aspire to is happiness. This means knowing who and what you really are, and what your true role is in the cosmic drama. You will live in this body such a short time, only a few years. You must take seriously whatever happens in this ephemeral life. Nevertheless, keep your sights on changelessness. The best you can manifest is only a limited ray of the infinite light. Offer that best up to God, from whom all good things come. Ask His blessings on what you do. If you hold your most mundane actions up to His light, you will find everything in life becoming sanctified.
And let's send out this light of infinity, of divine love and joy to all the world. Rubbing the palms together, let's send out 3 healing ohms. Peace. Amen. Thank you, friends. Thank you, Stephanie, Guru Patri Navasa. So we'll be back in another 2 weeks, and we'll move on to lesson 10.
Thanks.
Okay. Have a great evening.